First thing I'm going to say, no, it does not. Not right now. Stop your rant comments. Goodbye. Good afternoon, you wee bastards, and welcome back to War Thunder with Koala. Today, we're going to be discussing whether or not the Abrams should receive its M833 depleted uranium APFSDS shell. More specifically, we're going to focus on the tank you see here, the M1IP, but we'll get to that in just a moment. For anybody who doesn't know, the M833 is the logical next shell that the Abrams could receive, after M774, the current unlockable upgrade shell on the M1 and M1IP. When the M1 first entered service, it was equipped with M774. Realistically speaking, neither of these tanks should even have M735. I've spoken to Abrams crewmen themselves, and they said they'd never even heard of this shell. Shortly after its initial production, however, the M1 was given M833. The shell was superior in every aspect, but of course we're most concerned with its raw penetration. This means that even the M1 we received in patch 1.77 could get the shell without any realism issues, and if the Leopard A1A1 can have the DM23 APFSDS, then, well, you know, it's up for discussions, maybe. No. The answer is no. The raw penetration of the M833 shell at 10 meters at 0 degrees is 490 millimeters. While this is still significantly less than the Type 90's JM33 and only 15 millimeters more than the T-80B's 3BM22, both of which are fired from bigger, more damaging guns, the M1 at 10.0 does not need the M833 shell. Some people are already in the camp saying that the Abrams is the best and most powerful tank in the game, in which case you'll obviously agree with me when I say this. But I personally think that the Type 90 and Leopard 2A4 both beat the M1 currently for best tank, the Type 90 and 2A4 tied for the top spot. I still don't believe that the M1 needs this shell. I'm one of those people who cast aspersions on this myth that the Abrams isn't one-shottable, that it has this amazing survivability that makes it the best. I get one shot in the thing often enough, and many times the first shot may not kill me, but it'll cripple me, killing my driver and gunner, or more usually, driver and horizontal turret drive, which prevents me from fighting back and makes the second shot fired a certain death sentence. The Abrams may have the mobility, but the Type 90 matches it. It may have a great reload, but the Type 90 beats it. It may have more crew, but the Leopard matches it there, and it may have some very good armor, but the Leopard beats it on that front. Its weak spots are large, its gun is low damaging when compared to the rest of its tier. The only tank that doesn't have more penetration than it is the Challenger 1, but it does have the benefit of firing out of a larger cannon. I still don't believe that the Abrams needs the added penetration of the M833, because it is a fantastic tank, beating out, in my opinion, the T-80B, and it's a great all-rounder that needs to be a little more careful and precise with its shots. That's its main balancing factor. This tank shouldn't be as point-and-clicky as the others because it's already the best jack of all trades at top tier. The Leopard 2A4 and Type 90 may beat it in some regards, but the Abrams beats each of them in others, and while I don't think it's the best tank, it's certainly not poor by any means. You'll notice I didn't mention the repair cost. It needs to be matched with the other 10.0s. We're going to be optimistic and assume it gets changed soon, and focus on the tank pretending it has a balanced repair cost, somewhere in the neighbourhood of 6,500 Silver Lions. Now, I did say that I'd be focusing more on the M1IP, more so than the M1, and here's where things get interesting. People have said things along the lines of, the M1IP isn't any better than the M1, it's pointless. Once again, we're ignoring the repair cost. And basically stated that while the added armor does increase your chances of surviving helicopters, missiles, something I personally think is more of an added benefit than most give it credit for, and provides you a little more kinetic energy effective armor, that it also slows down the tank a little, and this basically makes it just as effective as the M1, if not even less. I don't think this is true. The M1IP's added kinetic armor does mean that the Leopard 2A4 can't penetrate your turret cheeks, whilst it can from close enough range on the M1. This is one thing that Abrams players always like to bring up when people call the Abrams better than the Leopard, saying that the Leopard has enough pen to neutralize the Abrams armor, while the reverse is not true. The Abrams has to aim for weak spots. Now, with the IP model, the reverse is true, and most Leopard players aren't quite so used to having to aim so specifically when facing up against an Abrams. Basically, play and spade your IP M1s now. The M1IP is, in my opinion, the third tank tying for the top spot right now, and once again, like I said in the intro, it certainly does not need the added bonus of having enough penetration to ignore all armor in the game. At least not in our current workaround. People who saw my Type 90 video or hang out on my Discord know exactly what I'm about to say. In that Type 90 video, I suggested that a fix to the armour, aka a significant increase to have the values match up with their real life equivalents, would see the tank balanced at 10.3, and that the M1IP with M833 could join it there, along with the T80BV. This was a suggestion for the Type 90, but almost a necessity with the IP. As I said before, the M1 actually began its service life with M774 and ended up with M833 shortly afterwards. The M1IP began with M833 and ended up with the even higher penetrating M900 shell before it ceased to be used when the heavy variants of the M1A1, the HA and HC with depleted uranium meshed armour became standard fare for the US Army. So, if we're going for strict realism, the M1IP shouldn't even have M774 at all, let alone it being the upgraded shell. But this game isn't strictly realistic. We get to play around with certain balancing factors, and the M900 shell, yeah, there's no chance of us seeing that. That shell had around 650mm penetration. Holy hell, America, what did you do? What did you do? How did you... Who sold their soul to the devil to get 650mm penetration out of the M68 gun? Jesus. Wow. So for the M1 to see M735 stock and M774 spaded, and the M1IP at BR 10.3 to see M774 stock and M833 spaded, I think that's more than fair, and begins to take us into truly modern tanks, which we've already had confirmed are coming in future. Unfortunately, there's nothing Germany could actually have at BR 10.3, but as I said in the Type 90 video, we'll make a whole separate one talking about what the tech trees might look like in another 6 months' time. M1A2s and such. Now, the M1IP does have some inaccuracies in its armour. I've been told that it should have depleted uranium armour, not meshed into the turret composition like in the M1A1 heavy variants, but separated behind the chopum armour of the turret, which would raise the protection to around 480mm against kinetic energy munitions, and that the lower front plate should have the same at around 460mm effective protection, as well as that lower front plate having more chemical protection than ours currently does in game. This information was given to me by Abrams crewmen and engineers who worked on the tank, so you can't get much more reliable than that. Who knows if they were supposed to divulge that information, actually? Might not be allowed. Probably not. Lads, if I stop making videos tomorrow, it's because the CIA came knocking on my... Wait, how did you... The video's not even... It's classified? Oh, hey. Lads, the Abrams is completely accurate. Everything's fine as it is. In all seriousness though, it's obvious to see why that extra armour hasn't been modelled right now. That would make the M1IP ridiculously overpowered, actually justifying that disgusting repair cost, and that's saying something. Funnily enough though, for some ungodly reason, the M1IP in-game has less effective lower frontal plate armour than the M1, despite the fact that the armour literally doesn't change at all. Same composition, exactly the same thickness, same constructional angle, and yet it's different? Makes no sense. Gaijin, please fix. The weak spot underneath the turret, between the turret and the upper front plate where you can see the exposed turret ring, is also far too big, almost as big as the mantlet itself. If you go take a look at an Abrams tank IRL, you can clearly see that that gap is only just big enough to fit a 125mm shell through, let alone aim accurately at 2 km range. Might seem like a relatively small nitpick, which it kinda is, but seeing as that's the way I most often get killed in the Abrams, fixing it might make the tank a real long-range beast, with enemies unable to realistically aim at the exposed turret ring at all. This is talking 10.3, facing tiers even higher than that. The M1 and M1IP currently already are absolute beasts. An M1IP with these disparities corrected and the M833 shell as an unlockable modification would make for a fantastic tank for a battle rating of 10.3, alongside the Type 90 with corrected armour and the T80BV, an up-armoured T80B also fitted with Contact 1 explosive reactive armour. The T80BV couldn't be a modification for the T80B like the T64BV is for the T64B, because the two tanks are notably different besides the ERA. Actually, so are the T64B and BV, and we have literally never had a T64B, even in update 1.77. We just had a T64BV without any ARA on. We had a naked T64BV, wow. That's one other reason we should rename the tank T64BV and give it the ERA as a tier 1 modification. but we can't do the same for the T80B. The T80B and T80BV are different tanks. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on this discussion down in the comment section below. Whether you think the M1IP should go up to 10.3 with corrected armor and the M833 shell next update, alongside the T80BV and corrected Type 90, or whether you prefer how things currently are, and why. I personally think it's utter bollocks to have the M1IP, a tank that began its service life using M833, firing not just M774, but even M735. Wow, that was the nerdiest sentence I've ever spoken. Also, speaking of which, the M60A1 AOS and M60A1 Rise could also fire the M774 DU APFSDS shell, and I think that for these tanks to both receive that shell would be pretty great. Of course, the AOS would have to be up-tiered to 8.7 with it, and I think it would be balanced there, while the Rise at 9.0 would already be at a good spot for the shell. They're just blatantly not that good tanks. People have already called for the Rise to be down-tiered alongside the T55 AM1, which, by the way, is a pretty fantastic tank now, and you should totally consider buying it, sus my video before the down-tier. Perhaps this would be a better solution than down-tiering the Rise. Give it the Abrams top shell. Perhaps not. Let me know your thoughts on that down below as well. Of course, Gaijin could always go the World of Tanks way and make it a premium shell. And before I utterly kill the like rating of this video with more sarcasm like that, I'm going to say a quick thank you for 7,000 subscribers now. Holy hell. Thanks for your support. And if you want to support me more, there's always a Patreon link in the description. Just saying. I hope you have enjoyed this video, lads. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, come join me at all these social media links in the description below, and as always, please remember to keep your bagpipes to hand, your kilt on, and I will see you in the next one.